Peace. Um, how are you? How is your heart? I hope you're feeling good. I hope your heart is feeling um, light and yet full of love and peace. Um, I am making this video because I want to start just offering some brief grounding, breathing, some opportunity for meditation sometimes, um, and also just sometimes I don't feel like typing. I would rather just um, say the things, vocalize the things um, verbally. So here I am in full transparency. My cycle is on. It's been rougher, a little rougher this time um, than usual, but it's fine. But I'm bloated, and so I have found myself rubbing my belly um, and just kind of like accepting, right, that this is how my body feels and looks right now at this time, and that's okay. Um, I had posted earlier this month, well, last week, I had posted about pleasure and how this month has been devoted to pleasure, um, essentially introducing bliss practices with pleasure being the first one, right? Um, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about this. This disclaimer, this is not scripted. I have not written anything to memorize or read. I am just talking off the top of my head about pleasure. Um, so I've been thinking about pleasure a lot, and not just this month, honestly, but even before. Um, if you have seen any of my posts or not just here on Substack, but even on Instagram, I have been working on pleasurescapes, and pleasurescapes, um, this body of work is a new body of work. I'm very excited about it um, because the art is actually inspired by my erotic writings. And so it feels very satisfying to very intentionally create a body of work because this is my first time doing that. I have shown bodies of work, um, but those so-called bodies of work were just like, they just happened to happen, right? And what I mean is, usually I'm working on multiple pieces at the same time, and I'm usually working with a particular color palette. Um, and so all of the pieces that I make during that time look like a cohesive body or collection of work um, because they have the same colors. And, like I said, I'm working on them at the same time. I'm putting down a layer on one piece, and then while that dries, I'm moving on to the next piece to put down a layer and markings, and then so on. And so this is the first time that I had a concept, um, and from that concept began to build out my ideas and this particular body of work, right? Um, and so let me first talk about what inspired the poetry and the writings for Pleasurescapes. Um, I have been, pleasure has always been important to me. And not just sexual pleasure. I'm also talking about feel good, joy, um, ease, and delight, wonder, and curiosity, right? I love to laugh. Um, I love people that make me laugh, that I can make laugh, and we can laugh together. Um, I love to indulge in things that feel really good to my body, my mind, my spirit. Um, and I love to engage my senses. I believe that I'm a very sensual person, and I like to be very present and in the moment in my experiences, because I want to see the things and take them in and smell them and taste them and feel them, you know, on my skin. And yeah, like I very sensual, um, very present most of the time. And so sexually, um, I I have, once I began to have sex, once I began to have sex in my early 20s, um, I was able to experience another level of pleasure, and I felt safe enough with the person that I was in partnership with, who um, was my ex-husband, uh, to explore some and figure some things out. And some things I knew just from like make out sessions in high school and stuff like that. So there were some things that I already knew about my own pleasure and what felt good in my body. And then as I began to engage in sexual intercourse, that expanded. Um, at some point, fast forward, I'm headed for a divorce. It's clear that I'm going to get a divorce. And I remember meeting a woman that I was attracted to for the first time. And then uh, realizing that, oh, huh, maybe I'm not straight. Who knew? Um, and so that also expanded my, um, I guess, like my pleasure bank, right? Um, which is wonderful. And as the years have gone by, I've engaged in pleasure um, in a multitude of ways. Again, not just sexually, but in many different ways, and indulged in enjoyment and delight and um, experiencing moments of bliss. And I've had wonderful lovers. Sheesh, wonderful. Um, and more recently, like in the last year or so, I have been engaged in, I'll call it a love affair, right? That sounds kind of romantic. Um, I, I've been engaged in a love affair with a man who I refer to as fine ass man. Um, and I feel a level of safety with him that I have not felt since my ex-husband, which um, is overwhelming, exhilarating, uh, scary, all at the same time. Because I know that when I feel very safe, I'm also much more open, which can be risky, right? Because now I'm super vulnerable, um, and uh, opening up myself to be hurt, rejected, you know, abandoned, all these different fears and inner narratives come up. But I am a person who is resolved to experience joy as much as possible and pleasure as much as possible. And so I am in a very deliberate practice around staying open with this person and vulnerable, and um, not attaching stories to how he actually shows up, right? And so he has shown up in a way that has never made me feel unsafe with him. And so the level of pleasure that I experience in his presence, um, not just sexually, but like emotionally and spiritually, is it's increasing. It seems like every time. um, I'm grateful for this connection that I get to experience, and this pleasure that I also get to experience. And it is, there's something happening with this person that has inspired me to write, um, specifically erotic writings. And I haven't been inspired to write by anyone in a really long time. And not only has he inspired me to write, but also to create art, to illustrate the things that I have been writing about him, about us. Um, and so Pleasurescapes is actually deeply personal. Um, I don't think I'm gonna convey to most people um, how personal it is. Uh, but when he saw the work and saw the titles for the work, um, he knew immediately. I mean, he already knew that I was creating this work about him, about us. Um, but seeing the titles made it even more real, I guess, or um, I don't know. But anyway, pleasure as a practice. What I what I hope for you is that you are experiencing, have experienced, and will experience, and continue to experience as much pleasure as you possibly can. Allow yourself to be open. And again, I'm not just talking about sexually, like, that's your business. Um, what I mean is, in all the ways, allow yourself to be open to experiencing peace, love, ease, joy, bliss, um, emotional balance, um, freedom, you know? And so I made this video to offer just a quick practice, a quick um, breathwork practice, and maybe a brief meditation um, around pleasure. And yeah, so come into a comfortable position, whether that's seated or lying down. Um, if you're seated, sit in a way that you can like lean back and feel supported, right? Um, if you want your feet to connect with the floor or the ground, that's fine. If not, that's fine too. I'm sitting cross-legged on my futon, in my studio with a pillow behind me for more comfort and support. So let your body relax into whatever position feels best for you. I'm sorry if you hear things in the background. I am in my studio, and I'm surrounded by other business owners, and so they're working, moving, hustling, bustling, and so there may be some sounds that you hear, but that's fine. That's not going to keep us from being in our practice at all. So you are in your comfortable position, again, whether that's seated or lying down, and I'm going to ask that you let your hands rest against your body, and maybe just feel yourself, right? And perhaps you lower your gaze or gently close your eyes. And as you're gently rubbing your skin, caressing your body, I'm going to ask that you take a deep inhale in through the nose, fill up the belly and lungs. Sigh it out of the mouth. And breathe in and out through your nose. Lengthen the inhales and exhales so your breath becomes a little slower. And perhaps by now your hands are just resting wherever feels best, not moving, resting. And breathe. Our mantra for this practice is, I create space for my pleasure. I create space for my pleasure. I create space for my pleasure. And breathe. Perhaps you begin to picture the colors or color that brings you the most pleasure. And imagine yourself in a space that is soft to the touch, comfortable, that is filled with the colors that bring you the most pleasure. Release any tightness or tension in your body. Allow yourself to relax and be held in that space. And breathe. And notice how pleasure feels in the body. What parts of you tingle and feel alive. You are safe held and cared for. Breathe. You are warm and being cuddled, held, safe, cared for. I create space for my pleasure. One more breath here. Then slowly begin to wiggle your fingers and toes. Move your head from side to side with care. Maybe lift the shoulders up towards your ears and then allow them to relax down and back. Allowing the hands to relax, perhaps releasing away from the body. Inhale and extend the arms up overhead. Stretch. Sigh it out of the mouth and release. Relax and breathe. Lift your gaze or gently open your eyes whenever you're ready. Maybe you smile, still connected with your joy. Thank you for sharing this bliss practice with me today. As always, I wish you peace, love, balance, and liberation. Peace.